What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another adventure here at the Outpost. In today's adventure, we are rocking in with another series looking at some of my favorite writer-directors and their filmography and seeing just where they line up on my personal preference of lovability. That's right, I'm using lovability as a word. It's happening. I did it. Moving on. Let's keep going. In today's adventure, the writer-director that we will be taking a fine pick comb look at in his filmography is the master of suspense, the master of science fiction, the master of practical effects, Mr. Christopher Nolan.
Come back.
We all believe we'd run into the burning building.
You're waiting for a train. Close your eyes and remember her.
But until we feel that heat,
A train that will take you far away.
you can never know.
You know where you hope this train will take you, but you don't know for sure. But it doesn't matter.
Cause we'll be together.
Done you up, I'll set your bones, but I won't bury you. Buried enough members of the Wayne family.
Down to earth. Shutting it all down.
I specialize in a very specific type of security.
And try to understand it.
Christopher Nolan is probably the best user of practical effects in movies today, next to probably Quentin Tarantino. I don't really see or can even think to name off any other people who are as known for sticking with practicality as much as possible. Just not many people do it today, and it's a shame because you really see just how good Christopher Nolan's movies turn out and how well they're shot and how good the practical effects hold up even today in a lot of his movies that I wish it was a common thing for a lot of people to do. But they don't. But, I mean, it's also it's a win-win, maybe a win-lose there, because it's just if Christopher Nolan wasn't one of those guys, would his movies still be as good if everybody was using practical effects? Probably not. Who knows? Who's to say? But we don't have to live in that world. We live in this world where Christopher Nolan is one of the few to use practical effects. And we are ever grateful for you doing it, Chris. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the list and take a look at his movies and where they stack up in my personal rankings. And we're going to kick it off controversially right out the gate. Right out of the gate, we're going to be controversial because this is a pick that I think a lot of people are not going to agree with. But my least favorite Christopher Nolan movie is Dunkirk. I hate this movie. I really do. I don't want to just hate on everything. This is my least favorite Christopher Nolan movie, but it's simply there just because most of his movies are freaking amazing. So it's really hard to choose when you get to the bad stuff. But story structure-wise, this movie just doesn't really hit the mark for me. It bothers me a lot in the way that he decides to play with time in a movie like this, where really we should have, if any of his movies was going to have a regular linear plot, this was the movie to do it. I didn't need all of the crazy time jumping back and forth. It didn't need to be. It felt like this was the movie that felt like it showed so much how his gimmick is just time shit, where I wanted him to be a little bit more varied in the way that he makes his movies, and that I was hoping that this one would just be a straight linear war movie. That's not to say it's the worst. It's shot beautifully. The practical effect work in it is phenomenal. All the actors, of course, are top notch. You've got a lot of great talent in here, from Kenneth Branagh to Cillian Murphy, to Mark Rylance, Tom Hardy. Everybody in it's really good, and Christopher Nolan shoots the hell of it. It's just that story structure-wise, I really couldn't stand this movie, and the whole time I was watching it, every time they switched back and forth with time and everything, it just pissed me off more and more and more. I only saw it once in theaters, so I might have to give this one a rewatch and see if my thoughts have changed at all on the matter, but I don't think they're going to. My thoughts very rarely change on movies. I mean, it would have to be. I think this movie's still too fresh for me to have a different opinion if I watched it again. Normally it's got to be decades after I watch a movie. I have to be a completely different person at that point to really look at a movie in a new lens. I don't think this one has made it there yet. So right now, last place, Dunkirk. Fuck you. Coming in just ahead of Dunkirk, but literally by a hair, is The Dark Knight Rises. See, this is a movie, when I first watched it, I fucking hated it. I hated it so much. I definitely got swept up in the heat of the moment of coming off of The Dark Knight. It was like one of the greatest movies ever made, and then coming to this one and just being like, this is fucking all over the place. And I didn't watch it for the longest time. Like this, when did this come out? It's gonna take me fucking forever to look on here and see when it came out. I don't remember. Dark Knight came out, what, 2008? So this was probably like, I think it was like 3 or 4 years. This is probably like around like 2011, 2012. And I watched it then and I hated it. And I probably just watched it again for the first time during quarantine last year. So that lines up. That's almost a decade in between these that I watched it. And I realized it's not as bad as I made it out to be. Like, I remember when I first watched this, I was like, fuck this movie. This movie's garbage. I have no need to ever watch this again. It's not nearly that bad, but it's still not great. It's watchable. It's definitely watchable. The performances really help make it. I think Tom Hardy as Bane is still like really good. Christian Bale as Batman, as always, is phenomenal. I like Marion Cotillard is a really good actress. I don't know so well in this movie just because I think her character was like really lame, but she still was like decent in the movie. And Anne Hathaway as Catwoman, also top notch. She's phenomenal. It's just that this movie it still is all over the place. Like there's just too many plot holes. There's just too much nonsensical shit. Like it's the most comic booky of his Dark Knight trilogy, and I didn't want that. What I loved about this trilogy from the first two ones is that it felt very raw and very real. It felt like something that could really happen. And then this one came, and it got really dumb. Yeah. So, that's my Dark Knight Rises in a nutshell. It's still entertaining. It's definitely not as bad as I made it out to be back in the day. I could easily see myself watching this again if I decide in like another 10 years or whatever, like I'm going to do, like watch all 3 Dark Knight movies back to back. Like it's easily like can be done. I just like very few and far in between viewings there will be of this movie because it's crap. The only movie not written by Christopher Nolan, only directed, shows up next, and that is Insomnia. This is a solid suspense movie. I mean, it definitely doesn't help that Christopher Nolan's not like writing here too. I'm like honestly surprised that like once he signed on to this that he didn't take a run at the script and like polish it up to like suit his needs. And I don't know so much behind the scenes stuff. It'd be interesting to read about and see why, like how it became that like he just directed this and didn't write this. Like what happened that they were just like, we don't know so much about you writing and directing movies again, but here, we want to throw this one at you to direct. But he did it, and it's a solid movie. Robin Williams is like really, I love when they put Robin Williams in like dark roles like this, 1 hour photo. Like there is probably not many prolific actors out there like Robin Williams, like a man that can just crush comedy, crush drama, crush dark like thrillers. Like the man was able to do it all, and this was a really great vehicle for him. Al Pacino is Al Pacino. I after like 1990, like I just can't stand anything. Like he's just the fucking dumbest actor after a while. He's entertaining, but like he's just fucking so stupid. And yeah, Hilary Swank's in there too. She, does the best with what she's given, but it's not really like it. I mean, really, Robin Williams is the one that shines out of this, and this is easily the most probably like mainstream they tried to make Christopher Nolan to be. Like it just seems so reined in when like it felt like studios were trying to be like, you're gonna play by us instead of us just letting you be you and us giving you money. But it's still like a decent movie. Like I like this better than the other two just because I really enjoy like good thrillers. And this was a fun thriller that I can like return to every now and again. Whereas the other two movies are just like, they're well made, but like story wise, I just like have zero interest in rewatching them again. So, Insomnia. But now we're out of the stuff that I have complaints about And from here on out, it's just, hit after hit after hit after hit. And it's basically just figuring out where those hits all line up in regards to my preferences. Because all the rest of these movies that we're about to get to, I absolutely loved. And we're going to kick that off with the movie that started the Batman return, and that is Batman Begins. This movie is really freaking good. It was such a great return for Batman. I saw this movie 3 times in theaters when it came out. It was 2005, so I was 15 years old. I loved this movie. I thought Christian Bale was so good as Batman. Liam Neeson as Ra's al Ghul. 2005 was a great year for Liam Neeson being a mentor, because we had him in this movie, and then we also had him in Kingdom of Heaven. So he was just crushing it that year. This was just such a good return to form for Batman, and it was such an interesting world that Christopher Nolan built for it, and just the way that he told the story in that non-linear fashion was really cool as well. Like starting it with Christian Bale already like being out and about, trying to like discover himself and joining the League of Shadows and all that shit. And then having him come back to Gotham. This was such a fun freaking movie. I loved it. And it would set the stage for an amazing follow-up that will be coming on this list shortly. The movie that put him on the map, Memento. This movie, surprisingly, this was the first Christopher Nolan movie I ever saw when I was a kid too. My stepdad, when we would go over, and he had the most amazing movie collection. I had a very paltry movie collection in the beginning, but he had freaking everything you could think of. And we used to go over there on weekends, and he would just let me choose whatever movie I wanted to watch and just go from there. And that's where I discovered this movie. There was just something about this cover that just spoke to me, and I was like, I'm going to watch this movie. Like, this looks cool. And it blew my fucking mind. I think I was like 14 too when I saw it. So like way earlier in my movie watching career. But this movie was such a trip for me. Just the way it's shot, the format that he uses of the non-linear storytelling, the black and white. It was such a. I had never seen a movie like it before, and it enthralled me from start to finish. And it really helped me on my journey when I started to like want to write and tell stories as well. I knew I wanted to use formats like this where you would find quirky and nonlinear ways to tell these really dark type of thriller movies. This movie is one of the best ones. Guy Pearce and Carrie-Anne Moss, Joe Pantoliano, I probably just pronounced that last name wrong, are freaking phenomenal in it. This is a hard movie. Like it's a tough movie to be a good actor in, especially Guy Pearce sells the shit out of this movie, and he is just phenomenal in it. And that's a hard role to do. So all the power to him. I couldn't imagine being Christopher Nolan and like explaining this movie to somebody to get it made. Like it's just an absolute mindfuck. But it's a mindfuck you should absolutely see if you haven't seen. So if you haven't seen Memento, get your ass on it, because it just might change your life. The movie that brought us all back to theaters in 2020, Tenet. This movie, very mixed reviews from people. There's people that love it, and then there's people that hate it. There's really no in between. I am one of the people that loves it. I love stories about time dilation and time travel, and any scenario where we're fucking with time, you've already got me. I'm in. And so this movie, it wasn't hard for me to follow. I mean, the biggest thing that makes it kind of hard to follow is the fact that the sound design, like the way he just did it, where like you can't fucking hear a thing most people are saying, is tough. So I loved it when I saw it in theaters, but I loved it even more when I watched it at home and I could watch it with subtitles, so like I could really follow along and get every chunk and nugget that I really wanted to get. This movie is phenomenal. I have all my friends that have seen it absolutely hate it. I don't think I have one friend that saw this movie that liked it at all. I'm the only one, and I'm cool with that, because like this is a movie that really speaks to like a certain type of person. This is not like a big mainstream movie, which is why it's weird that they marketed this as like, hey, let's make Tenet the return to theaters. Like that's the movie that's going to bring everybody back in. And it's like, I don't know, man. Like that's a tough sell for people. Like, hey, you should come back to the theaters and sit through this 2.5 hour movie, and you're gonna have no fucking idea what just happened. So tough gamble on their end, but I'm glad they did it because I got to see it in theaters. I fucking loved it. So all the time, John David Washington, man, I don't know who he studied under, if his dad taught him or whatnot, but this man, great actor. He's gonna have a very long and healthy career, and I look forward to all the other stuff he's doing. Robert Pattinson in this movie, freaking awesome. Kenneth Branagh, very over the top, but you know it works. It's fine. Kenneth Branagh can get away with shit like that. This is a really fun movie. The whole plane sequence where you see it like in the first half of the movie and we see it going forward, and then it returns later in the movie when they're going backwards through time, and we get like the second portion that gives you like the aha about it. Absolutely flawlessly executed, incredibly amazing. This movie is phenomenal. If you missed out on it in theaters, or you were just like have decided to not watch it since like you saw all the reviews for it, I heavily recommend you giving this movie a chance. Turn your subtitles on so you can get all that good nugget of dialogue that you need, and just sit back and enjoy, because you'll be in for a fucking treat. Just missing out on the top 3 is a movie that I was obsessed with in high school. This is another one I think I saw like 3 times in theaters because it just fucking blew my mind when I saw it, and that is The Prestige. This movie is, it's a mindfuck, but it is a great mindfuck. Probably the best movie anyone's ever made about magicians. And it's always funny, like this movie came out the same year as The Illusionist, which was another movie about magicians. So it's always weird how like there's never been a movie about magicians really, and then suddenly you got 2 in 1 year. It cracks me up the way that works sometimes. This is the better magician movie, by the way, if you were deciding which one out of the 2 to watch. Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale are phenomenal in this movie. Michael Caine, really good. Scarlett Johansson, everybody really knocks it out of the park. Oh yeah, David Bowie's in this too. Everyone really just brings their A game on it. It's just a very like really cool look and an interesting, unique way to make a thriller. Like it was really cool the way that they were just like, we need to make a thriller. Let's make one about magicians, and they did, and it's incredible. Like, who would ever thought you'd make a movie this good about magicians, about rival magicians living in like the early 20th century? It's like one of those movies that like is another one. Like, who pitched this and was just like early 20th century magician rivals? Like, yeah, let's do it. Let's make it. Like, here's the $40 million. Like, go knock yourself out. But whoever greenlit this for Christopher Nolan, I applaud you. I thank you, because you made 16-year-old TJ a super happy dude, because he probably watched this movie more times than he can remember in theaters and on DVD as it came out. I probably burned through this copy. It's just a phenomenal movie. Absolutely check it out if you haven't checked it out, because, I mean, thriller, magicians, like, I should have already sold you on that alone. So go watch it. Continuing the Christopher Nolan tradition of movies I've seen in theaters way too many times, is this gem that came out while I was in college that I think I saw 4 times in theaters, twice actually in one day. It was that goddamn good, and that's Inception. This is a movie this and the next 2 movies, if anyone said was their favorite Christopher Nolan movie, I would be like, absolutely, man, respect. I totally understand that. And I honestly, depending on the day, I could probably go back and forth on why any of these 3 would be my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. But for now, this one sits comfortably in 3rd place. This movie is a fucking trip, man. This is another one like Memento, where like I saw it when it came out in theaters. It was a movie like you'd never seen before. It was so freaking unique, and to make like an amazing blockbuster action thriller out of a concept so fucking complicated, it's a testament to his power as a writer. That he can do it in a way where you're not only following it, but you're understanding it, and you're getting it, and it's freaking so enjoyable. It is absolutely incredible, this movie. The action set pieces are phenomenal. Leo is great in it. Ken Watanabe, Levitt, Cotillard, just everyone bringing their A game. This was, I think, the first movie I remember seeing with Tom Hardy, where I was like, oh, that guy's pretty cool. Like, I hope he's in more shit. And look at him now. He's the fucking man. This movie is So great. There's really nothing. I have nothing to complain about with this movie. This is one of those movies. This and the next two movies are just absolutely perfect. I have nothing bad to say about these movies. What I will say about Inception is that I absolutely believe that he made it to his kids at the end of that movie. That the spinner is a red herring. Doesn't even matter. This man, where is he? Right there. Leo, he got home to his kids, baby. Got home to his kid. Coming in at number 2 is a movie that I went and saw the 3 a.m. Thursday show because it was just that goddamn, the hype was just that goddamn real. And the midnight show was already sold out. So we caught the 3 a.m. show. It got out around like 5:30, 6 o'clock. We went right to the beach, hung out all day on the beach, drinking, passing out, all that good stuff. Got home and immediately went and saw it again. And that's The Dark Knight. This fucking movie. This to me is the perfect fucking superhero movie. And I say that mostly because it's not a superhero movie. Because I'm not the biggest fan of superhero movies, but this movie, man, this movie is like, it's just a crime thriller that just happens to have a dude who dresses up like a bat and a clown that's absolutely fucking deranged. And I love it. The writing in this is just perfect. The structure of it, the way it flows, the way the characters lead the plot and not the other way around is just so freaking good. And what I love most about this is that it does the number one thing that you should always do with your villains, and that is leave that fucking mystery. Like, you don't know a goddamn thing about this Joker other than that he is absolutely deranged and he is gonna fucking make Batman understand like what his goals are. I can't stand the new Joker movie because I don't give a fuck about his origin stories. It's the same thing when you look at all the villain movies that Disney makes, like Cruella, Maleficent. I don't give a fuck about all those because I don't need to know all that. I hate any movie that wants to make a villain origin story. Fuck you. Fuck that. Don't do it. It sucks. They always suck. I don't care. I want the mystery. And this movie is just builds on that. Like, the opening scene of the introduction to this Joker is all you need to know about him, and it absolutely beautifully sets the stage for what he's going to pull off over the next 150 minutes of this movie. And it's incredible. Like, this movie is absolute perfection. I could watch it whenever it's on TV. I pop it in every year. I think I watch it at least once a year. It's so freaking good. Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, everyone in this movie. This movie's phenomenal. I'm sure everybody's seen it by now. And I'm just beating a dead horse because everybody's like, yeah, man, we agree with you. This movie's fucking amazing. I'm like, all right, what's the next one? So, yeah, this is fucking incredible. Dark Knight, you rule, number 2. But there's one more ahead of you. And for you Christopher Nolan fans out there, you probably know what it is already, so we're not even going to bother with the cut. I'm just going to drop that one there and pick up the new one, and that is Interstellar. This movie, beautiful. This movie is shot beautifully. The scenes and the shots in this scene of space in this movie are fucking incredible. Just absolutely incredible, and it's no wonder this movie won visual effects because it's just that goddamn good. Everybody in the movie is freaking amazing. Like probably one of McConaughey's best roles. Like the scene where he's sitting there after they come off that planet where they've lost like 23 years, and he's just sitting there crying as he's watching how his kids have aged. Freaking just gut-wrenching. This movie is so good, so good. It's movies like these that remind me why I love movies so much, especially science fiction movies. Like, I love sci-fi and space exploration and all of that stuff, so movies like this are my absolute bread and butter. And when they're done as incredibly as this movie, it's one of those movies that I sit back and I just have a smile on my face the entire time I'm watching it, because it's just so masterfully done, and it's just so wondrous, and it's perfect blockbuster filmmaking because it sends you on a roller coaster ride you hit all the emotions. You're like happy, you're crying, you're fucking on the edge of your seat at times. Like, this movie just ticks all the boxes of what you want at a blockbuster filmmaking. It is, it's incredible. I'm so glad I got to see it in theaters. I'm so glad that I have a beautiful TV to watch it on here at home. And one of these days, I really hope it's in theaters again so that I can see the majesty of it in theaters again, because it looks that goddamn good. So if there's any of you out there in the world that still, for whatever reason, haven't seen Interstellar, go watch Interstellar right now. Like, as of making this video, it's like midnight, but I don't give a fuck. Watch this movie right now. It's 3 hours, but it's worth it. It'll be the best 3 hours of your fucking life. Do it. And that's my list. As you can see, I am a huge Christopher Nolan fan. He is definitely one of the best writer-directors out there today. He's definitely one of the most, like, visually creative writer-directors out there today. It's just the way that he writes, the way that he directs, the shots that he chooses. It's just, he's such a unique filmmaker that we have today, and we need so many unique filmmakers like that to come. I feel like too many times we're getting bogged down with just studio heads and just like puppet directors that just make these like garbage studio movies, that like we need to champion people like Christopher Nolan as much as possible so that we can continue to get these amazing movies that he pumps out, and we can get the next generation of people out pumping movies like that. He's definitely helped me a lot, so much of my writing career, just reading his material and using beats that he has used to help in my writing. And, you know, I hope one day that my writing will never say never. I'll probably never reach the heights of this man, but, you know, who's to say? But, you know, we'll get there. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. That's it for us tonight, guys. We had a good run here tonight. We looked through some Christopher Nolan movies. If you love Christopher Nolan as much as I do, let's hear it down in the comments. Let me hear what some of your favorite Christopher Nolan movies are. If there's any of them in there that you haven't watched, every single one of those movies you should watch, just because you can learn something from every single one of those movies, on how to make movies, on how to write movies, on how to shoot movies, whatever you want from it. There's something you can take out of those movies. Even the two that I didn't really like, there's still so much to be learned from this master. So, until the next one, guys, you guys go out there, you have some fun, and adventure on.